Let's try this one more time. Hello, welcome back. I am Anthony Mueller, the wine advocate reviewer for Washington State and South Africa, coming to you live Wednesday, December 2nd at 1:10 p.m. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties getting into the room, but we're here. We'll be connecting today with Chris Upchurch, one of the legends of Red Mountain. He's been out there since the mid 1990s, making some incredible Cabernet. He started with DeLille and has since started his own brand, Upchurch Vineyards, and most recently LTL from Red Mountain. Some amazing fruit. We'll see if we can bring him into the room. Looks like he's not quite here yet, but looks like he will be coming shortly. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Wednesday. Let's see, we've got a request here. Let's see. No, that's not quite him yet. We are supposed to be receiving some Cabernet, but like 2020, everything's a little postponed and behind schedule. So we'll see if this will make it. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Let's see. Oh, here we go. There's Kristen. I think Kristen is trying to connect. Let's see if we get her. Looks like we're connecting.
Okay.
Ah, there's Kristen. Hi, Kristen. How you doing?
Hi there.
How are you doing?
Can you see Chris?
No, I'm actually, we're live right now on your phone.
Oh,
Are
you just reversed.
Oh,
Are
hold
you
on.
Chris?
There
you
it is.
go.
There he is.
Hey.
Fantastic. There we go. Hello.
I don't know what the story is. Sorry, Anthony. I've been trying to get on this whole time, but
Yeah, no worries. No, I saw you in and out. It's fine. It's, what would 2020 be without without a bit of a glitch? So it's all good. It's great to see your face. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us today. I know you're very busy, and 2020 is what it is, and we're all trying to make the best of it. So thank you.
Right
so
on.
much for enjoying
It's good to
this.
see you. How you doing, man?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. It's been an interesting year for sure. So I'm speaking to you live from my office. It's funny, actually. I just caught our editor-in-chief, Lisa Party Brown, Master of Wine. She had actually just set up for a really cool setup and interview process for or a podcast that they're doing for next week. Really cool stuff. But yeah, it is what it is. 2020 is a moving target, and we're making it work. So yeah, we are supposed to taste the wines, but I know that you've got. But I don't, unfortunately, have the wines yet. They're still in transit. We'll see if it comes during our chat. But yeah, for the people out there who may not know who you are, who don't know too much about Red Mountain or Chris Upchurch, could you please give us a brief bio about yourself and little background about your career and your brands that you have?
Well, sure. I started off a lot with started DeLille Cellars in '92, and my mentor was David Lake at Columbia Winery.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me so much about what real winemaking is as opposed to fermentation sciences and all that. And, from there, we started DeLille with the notion that nobody was really making Bordeaux varietals in Washington State. They certainly were doing that everywhere. In California, there was Opus and Dominus and Cane 5 and Montebello and all those wines. But in Washington State, people were still thinking that you had to be on a wine list. In order to do that, you had to make a varietal.
Yeah.
But with my more classical training, I knew that I didn't really care about people would find a way if I made a really good wine, and I knew that you could make wine where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts here in Washington State. Part of that is that if you're going to build a wine, first thing you got to do is you got to find a great Cabernet that's not only a fine wine, but also has structure and foundation so that you could build other Bordeaux varietals around it, like Merlot and Cab Franc. Petit Verdot, and so forth. And that really took me straight to Red Mountain, because Red Mountain is where the big Cabernets are grown here in this state, and it's also where wines with good structure and foundation that you can really wrap layers of Merlot and so forth around. And so we went straight to Red Mountain. I've been promoting and working with Red Mountain ever since, and certainly I'm very proud of what we've achieved with DeLille. In 2007, the Bordeaux varietals actually really started showing itself with all the different clones we were doing, and then this vineyard came available, or this raw land came available to me that I was able to pick up, and I had both my two best growers, which was Jim Holmes and Dick Boucher, both have a look at it, and they said, don't think about it, just buy it. This is a fantastic site. And it really appealed to me that I could get back to a single vineyard, single family, small producer, attention to detail, after going through 28 years at DeLille and be very proud of what we're doing there. I thought I could spend the last part of my career really going through and doing this, what everybody's kind of looking for. My wife, Taya, always says in her restaurants that she owned, they were always looking for that small vineyard and the family-run, small producer, attention to detail. And so that's what I started with Upchurch Vineyard. Upchurch Vineyard is a 20-acre site. It's got its own little terroir. It's got it's kind of on top of a southern part of Red Mountain, where it's on its own little plateau, and it's sustainably farmed by Dick Boucher, and just really, really shows attention to detail and just how great Cabernet and Merlot can be in Washington State and in Red Mountain.
For sure, for sure. So why was it important to you to go back to the, one brand, one family, one land model?
Yeah, well, like I said, Taya, when she always spoke with the restaurants and everything, she always said that this is what we all end up looking for. The Chavs or the, whatever, the winery where, generations have spent time really looking at their plot and what they're doing. I just thought that at the end of my career, I could do a family-run winery that just, really, we look at every aspect of the vineyard and everything that we can do, that it's sustainably farmed, which I thought was important. It's certified live, low-impact viticultural technology out of Oregon, and it's also salmon safe, which is important up here in the Northwest because you have to protect the watersheds. And in order to be certified, you got to make sure you're not putting anything in the watersheds. You qualify for that too. So this is really just, like I said, what I think people in the long run are really looking for, just that family-run, attention to detail thing. And I think it's a great way to kind of, your last project, to do something like that you can be generational and look at
legacy, for sure. Yeah, I think it's very.
A lot of times I say, like at employee dinners or something like that, I say, which will you think will last longer, Microsoft or Upchurch Vineyard? And of course, we don't fit in one corner of one bathroom of one campus of Microsoft. Just a speck on the wall. But if you really think about it, as far as history is concerned, if you're tied to the land and you have a craft that can't be repeated
exactly, you
may last longer than a huge technology company. And that's no slam on Microsoft. It's just saying that, that's what's so cool about winemaking and the family aspect of it, is that you can last a long time.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's very important as well what you're doing with the land and having it be as natural as possible with being salmon safe. This is one thing that I think is so important to farming and to the wine business and to agriculture in general, that if we continue to put certain pesticides into the ground, that's going to ultimately contaminate the groundwater and the soil over time and build up with certain harsh chemicals. If we can do and find a way that is completely in sync with Mother Nature and we harmonize, we're able to then create, I think, an overall better package, good just because of it, because we have the sustainability in the land to continue to create and grow these crops for agricultural purpose. And who wants to be the one in charge of the vineyard that now has to sit fallow for a decade because we got to try and wrench the land of all the things that we put into it. So I think it's a very, very smart thing. It's a very thoughtful thing that you're doing with that as well. So good on you.
Well, I think that this really just gets back to the one family, one vineyard. If you believe in terroir, which I'm a huge terroir believer, then there's no winery that's more, or there's no product actually that cares more about the soil that you grow it in. You don't hear about the terroir of a tomato or terroir of wheat or anything like
and
that.
who knows, maybe that happens.
Some areas are better than others, but you don't really hear about how important the terroir, but you do with wine grapes. And
Sure.
and so if that's so important, then of course you want to take care of it. Washington State is naturally a green area anyway because it's like a petri dish. You need both sun and moisture. Yeah. And of course, the Red Mountain, we only get 7 inches of rain a year. So we're naturally green anyway, and just a couple more steps and a couple more things to do. And then, take it from there. So sure. I think it's just a part, and it's also a part of the one family looking at this like, this is our plot. This is it. We better take care of it, We don't have others,
Right.
We may get grapes from other places, but this is our one plot. We really hold it as sacred ground that we have to make last for generations and generations. And if you do that, I mean, you could imagine Shaw, who, is 46 generations of making wine there. They probably think their plot's pretty important.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
On Hermitage. And they probably think that, they want to take care of it. And I think that that's no different from any other small single vineyard family run plot.
Absolutely. So you're an avid lover of art. When I visited you last year, your winery was just covered in all sorts of beautiful arts, different types of art. Where do you draw your inspiration from when choosing art and in ultimately crafting a wine?
Well, I've always loved art. Art's always been an important part to me. I've got artist friends, numerous artist friends that I've spent time with and kind of gotten their approach to, what are you thinking? Again, I'll never learn how to use a brush, but I can get into what they're thinking and what they're trying to do. On our Upchurch Cab label, that's a Salustiano that is one of the hot artists in Europe right now. He's out of Seville. And I just think that he is, really, really talented. I get both his technique and his content, and I love his stuff. But there's so many other great artists out there. I've been to all the great museums in the world, studied a lot of the great artists, and then come back home. And the art at our winery is mostly, but not all, but mostly from the Northwest Art School that was around in the 60s, that was headed by Mark Tobey and had Morris Graves, had some other internationally famous winemakers as well as Bill Cumming and a lot of other people. So I really just really enjoy it. I recognize I have some artist friends that we talk about the difference between winemaking and art. Mm. There's certainly artisanship in winemaking, but at the same time, winemaking is a craft, and that's a different thing. I don't hang a bottle of wine on the wall.
Although I think around the planet there are plenty of winemakers that hang empty bottles, on windowsills and around cellars as well.
Yeah, but we don't look at it. I mean, we drink it, and
yeah, for sure.
Part of it.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, there's a tremendous amount of artisanship in it, as well as science and farming and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a craft. I love being a craftsman, by the way. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. I build something, and I think it's fantastic. There's a couple of differences between art and craft. One is craft, your resources are everything, like a chef or a winemaker or whatever. Your resources are very, very important, which I think for an artist, what kind of paint he uses or whatever, I think it's less important. He might say, oh, I really only like this kind. At the end of the day, Picasso was going to do a good job no matter what. And the other difference, I think, is that craftsmen like each other and artists kind of hate each other. It's kind of funny, but if you ask two craftsmen get together, we can talk about our problems and talk about.
Yeah, Chris, maybe you have your hand over the microphone. You seem a little hard to hear a little bit. I thought you were kind of cutting out.
That better?
Oh, much better. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So at any rate, yeah, it's just a matter of, I think that artists look at each other and say, I can't help you paint, whereas craftsmen get together and say, well, I did this, and this is what I tried. I think next time I'll try this, and so forth. And we get along quite well because we know that we're all just trying to build something that we think is special and people enjoy. So I love being a craftsman. I wouldn't be anything else.
Yeah. For you, it seems like art and wine are almost interconnected, so much so that if you have your bottle of Upchurch Vineyard's Cab handy, if you could quickly show the label for that. That is the picture, the piece of art that you were talking about from the artist from Sevilla. That's hanging in your cellar. It's beautiful, beautiful Cabernet, and because of the shipping delays, I wish I could be enjoying some with you right now. But feel free to pop some open if you wish. I've got my glasses here, ready for the guy to deliver some wines. But luckily, I've already tasted the wines, and they're absolutely brilliant and delicious stuff. I still don't know how you do the LTL Cabernet for $30. I mean, I was sitting there trying it, and I was like, how this guy seems like he's got to be losing some money. Like, this is so good for this price. Like, no one else on Red Mountain is making quality this good at that price. I mean, clearly your Upchurch Vineyards, that's where the pinnacle of your expression of your personal brand is, and just absolutely stellar stuff. But with land prices the way they are in Red Mountain right now, it's becoming a little crowded and a little expensive, and this is why you start to see people looking just slightly elsewhere. And the new addition of Candy Mountain just to the east of Red Mountain that shows some potential. There's a few people already planting there. Have you considered playing with some of the fruit from Candy Mountain just to the east of Red Mountain?
Well, I've considered every great fruit in Washington State. It's a little early in Candy Mountain, and I can't speak too much to it because I haven't used the grapes before. But I can say that, first of all, there's a hiking trail that connects the two. So obviously you can walk from one to the other, which means that they're very similar, at least in climate, rainfall, things like that. When you can walk from one to the other, you can expect the rainfall to be about the same. And indeed, it does have about 7 inches of rain a year, like Red Mountain. And as far as the climate, it's pretty sunny. It is south facing as opposed to southwest. So it might even have a few more degree days than Red Mountain. Might be a little bit warmer, but it's pretty similar in style. Looks like a real Cabernet area. To me, I know Marty Club at La Colle loves it, and a couple other winemakers. And I also know that one of my favorite growers is Marshall. And Marshall is there growing for Shaw, and certainly trust a lot of the things that he's doing. So, I think that, I can't really say. I think if you plant Cabernet there, you'll probably like it. Whether it's, above Red Mountain or below Red Mountain or whatever, I think time will tell on that. I'm not sure it'll be above, but Could it be Red Mountain's equal? It's very possible. But I think we need to give it a little bit more time, a little bit more development.
For sure. I agree with you. But I see its potential. I think the closer proximity to Red Mountain, the approachability to buying land now, I think it would be a wise decision to at least look at it and see. I see its potential, but Red Mountain has currently all the fame, all the glory, and we'll see if Candy Mountain doesn't become the little brother, or someday equal to Red Mountain. So tell us how LTL came to be. What was the inception behind it?
Well, we were making about 600 or 800 cases of the Red Mountain and of the cab and counterpart below, and we really it's pretty hard to pay for a winery and a 20-acre site and all that with those cases. So at the end of the day, we need to make a little bit more wine, obviously. Meanwhile, I had bits and pieces left over at Upchurch Vineyard. These are wines that were really great wines, but when you go to do your blending trials, you might have 10 barrels of each block that you're going to use, but you only want to use 6 of one, and you want to use all 10 of another. That means you got 4 left over of the one that you still used in your premium blend, but you just didn't want different proportions. So you got those 4 barrels left over, and we had a few of those, more than 4 actually, left over at Upchurch Vineyard. DeLille has the same thing. We got some grapes from them. And then also there's in this vintage, there's a little bit of a Shaw Mountain in there, which got the 98 points at DeLille before. And then there's some Heart of the Hill, which Bet's got a really high score on for his Heart of the Hill. And so these are really great vineyards, really great blocks. But we were able to get a hold of these bits and pieces and formulate a wine that I wanted to make for this LTL label, which was a little bit more hedonistic, and doesn't have all the structure and complexity and everything else that Upchurch Vineyard does, but it's certainly just a hedonistic, delicious, fantastic wine with all the attributes of Red Mountain. And we were able to do it so that we could sell it for $30. I'm not going to get rich off of it, but at the same time, we could get it out there and get some cash flow so we could, stop throwing so much money into the money pit here at Upchurch Vineyard and start, at least trying to break even a little bit here.
For sure. Yeah.
It's not easy when you start your own winery to really get your accounting online, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
And Upchurch Vineyard is certainly helping. So we wanted to a wine that was definitely a little bit more hedonistic, more pleasurable. Certainly Red Mountain can give that to us.
For sure.
And we wanted a fun label, we wanted a fun name and all that stuff so that we could have our Cabernet from Red Mountain that we could charge a pretty fair price for.
For sure. I remember tasting it, was like, there's no way this is going to stay $30 for long. I foresee this going up in price. So if people aren't familiar with the brand, check it out now, because I do feel that one day you're going to say, you know what, $40 is clearly a solid price for this wine, and you make $10 more per bottle, and it's clearly worth it. If people haven't checked out that website as well, I think it has one of the coolest intros to a website, where it's you, your wife, and your daughter come together and do the high five, and you go right into punch downs. It's super, super awesome.
Like I said, we're having fun with it. It's designed to be a fun label, but a serious wine, almost an Australian kind of, take the wine very seriously, but not myself so much. I think that's what LTL is all about. And
sure.
That, like I said, we really enjoyed it. And I appreciate your comments on it too, because that really helps get the word out that this is a pretty special wine, especially for the price.
Oh yeah, for sure. So let's talk about your career. You've had a very successful career, making some amazing wines on Red Mountain. With your knowledge What have you gained over your successful career, and what bits of wisdom would you give to the next generation of winemakers looking at Washington to make Washington wines?
Well, as far as the next generation is concerned, I mean, I mentored a lot of the winemakers around, and they've taught me as much as I've taught them. That's for sure. But the one thing that I really emphasize on is taste some wine. Get out there and try the wines of the world. I mean, it's amazing how many people, not just in Washington State, but in America in general, have cellar vision, or they have New World vision, or they have maybe fermentation science vision or whatever. And how can you make great wine if you don't know what great wine is? That's the question I ask every winemaker in the world and every wine enthusiast. And how can you know what great wine is if you haven't tasted a lot of it? I mean, if people haven't tasted, Latour or Chave or some of these wines, and how can you really formulate in your own wine? What's going to happen is you're going to find out that people, say, well, a great wine has got good varietal character, or good this or good that, big wines. I like big wines, stuff like that. And all those things are the wrong answer to me, but the people that are going out and really spending a lot of time on their own palate can then start formulating what they think is a great wine. Once you do that, then you get, okay, how do I do that in Washington State or in Red Mountain or wherever I am? And once you do that, then your work starts almost. Yeah. Then you really, if you want to make a great wine. I mean, if you want to make a price value wine or something, that's great too, and there's nothing wrong with that. And sure. Then your objectives come differently. But I like people that have a purpose in what they're making, and really try to go out. They might have prototypes, or they might just say, well, I really want to make something that really fulfills all the X and O's that I think a great wine is, and then go out and do it. But you can't do that if you don't. It's really kind of and it's not their fault. I mean, it's just a lot less opportunity. I mean, how often do you think kids get to try DRC, for example?
Yeah,
not a lot. When I was a young man, we actually went to DRC tastings here in Seattle, and I know around the country. We would have vertical tastings in the 80s of Margaux, which was an incredible tasting.
Yeah.
And I myself have traveled so much. I've been to every, corner of the earth looking at Grand Cru vineyards. And really, I think that is so important to really experience. I've talked to Andre Gaillet when he was still around. I talked to Jadot. I talked to Paul Battalier. I spent the day with him when he was still around. Jean-Louis Chave a couple times. I mean, all these things. And I don't ask them, what pH do you like, or, what bricks do you like, or anything like that. I just try to get in their heads to think, well, what are you thinking? What are you building? What are you trying to make? And how do you get there? And, okay, that's Bordeaux. I can't do everything in Red Mountain that you do in Bordeaux. Maybe some other things I can do. But if I can get to what they're thinking and then taste their wines and just really freak out about how really great they are, and then take it from there and try. And that's what I've done for Washington State. I think if the one thing that I've really done more than anything for Washington State, and I'm certainly not the only one. I mean, that's the Masters of Wine and so forth. So, and David was too. But at any rate, I think that I brought this kind of global perspective to making wine that's centuries old. I'm not talking about making global wine. I'm not a big guy on making global wine, but I'm talking about this global perspective of what great wine is, and then sharing how do you do that? What do you do there? I mean, it's so funny when I talk to Paul Battalier, for example. All he wanted to do was talk about irrigation because he can't do it.
Because he can't do it, exactly. Yeah.
And he had a few years where he wished he could, so he wanted to know all about it. And here I'm talking to one of the great winemakers of Bordeaux and making some of the great wines, and he wants to talk about irrigation, but it's still really important. Another thing that I did when I took my crew to France, the last time I went to France with my crew, we went to Burgundy, and you might say, well, And my partners absolutely said, well, we don't make Pinot or Chardonnay.
Point.
I can understand you take them to France. Why do you go to Burgundy? And I answered, well, I'm not trying to teach them how to make Cabernet. I'm trying to teach them how to build a wine and from the ground up and really kind of learn how to do all these great things. And in Burgundy, certainly biodynamics is
Huge.
Totally the thing in Burgundy. You can learn so much about that, but more, you can learn so much about terroir. You can go in and stick your hand in this dirt and then walk 3 rows and stick it in again, and it's different. And how do they treat it? Talk to the guys, and talk to some guy that says, this one plant is giving me trouble. I don't know what's going on there, but this one plant. And when you hear that, you go, you're talking about one plant? That's pretty incredible detail.
For sure.
And so that's what we did. And I think the crew really enjoyed being there and really enjoyed taking that kind of 600-year-old heritage into our winery. And if you can do that, you got a head start on a lot of people.
So there's no way to condense all of that. It's just like, go experience life, go experience all the great vineyards and winemakers of the world, and come back and then start.
Yeah, kind of.
No shortcut to greatness.
we figured out a long time ago that you don't come out of these schools being a great winemaker.
No.
You come out of these schools with some basic foundation
knowledge.
You don't know anything about Red Mountain or Bordeaux or anything else. And so you get started there. And it's fantastic. I don't hire anybody that hasn't been to school anymore, but I hire people that know that that's the beginning, and let's take it from there.
Yeah.
Everybody that I've hired, for the most part, has worked either in Chile or Burgundy or somewhere, New Zealand. Hannah, who we have at Upchurch Vineyard now, who's a budding superstar, is worked 7 years in New Zealand, so she at least has that perspective. Made a whole lot of Sauvignon Blanc, so we enjoyed having her come up and have a look at our Sauvignon Blanc too, which I think is pretty fantastic. So
awesome. Yeah, I've known quite a number of culinary students who have graduated and then they're fresh out of culinary school. I'm like, I'm going to be a chef, and then they go to get their job at a restaurant and then just get crushed and realize, oh man, like it's a lot harder. It's like real world application and real world experience is key. And working in a bunch of restaurants on a bunch of different lines, you begin to understand what works, what doesn't work, and it's the same methodology that can be overlaid into the wine world. You can go to a technical college or university, learn the intricacies and the technical side of winemaking, but then there's that little part of the magic that happens in the vineyard, and just understanding and being in tune with Mother Nature of why your grapes are giving you, why your vines are giving you certain grapes, and understanding that perfect moment when to harvest, and then taking what Mother Nature has given you and then turning that into something truly remarkable. It takes time and skill, and you've got to be patient, and you've got to have a fair amount of money if you want to start it on your own.
That or work at a wine shop or something. A couple guys that I've had work for me were working at McCarthy and Shearing's on Saturdays just so that they could taste a lot of wine.
Sure.
And like I said, it's not all their fault. It's not, especially Eastern Washington. You've got to get some groups together or something, because there's not that much that's readily there unless you make it happen. But at the same time, I think if you want to become a winemaker that's making some fantastic wines, you got to get out there and try it. You just do. I mean, everything else is available to you. Every kind of science, every kind of technology, all the farming, clonal research, everything you want is there. I mean, you can get most of it online nowadays.
For sure.
But the experience with these great winemakers have meant so much to me. I remember Andre Gaillet, he kept saying, but you don't know. Every question I said, well, what about this? Or how do you grow this? He says, well, we like to, but you don't know. And so you get right away, you get the idea that he's working the problems. He's talking about, experiencing what's going on. You know, people ask me all sorts of things about Red Mountain. What was this year like? What's that year like? So forth and so on. But the real truth is that, you know, is global warming have an effect? All this stuff. But the truth is that, you know, I'm working every year. I'm taking what I'm given, and just, you know, I've got enough experience now to see things and know what you need to do. 15, for example, was a really warm year.
Very warm.
But, and everybody was asking, what do we do, man? These things are getting really ripe really fast. And I said, well, put your big pants on and get the stuff in here, because the maturity happened really fast. I saw black seeds in August.
Wow.
Which I've never seen before, but I saw in 15, which means maturity was coming on right with the sugar. So get it in, you know, just, you know, ripen it. And I think we made a great 15. We were done by the end of September, you know, so you question the hang time. But if the flavors are there and if the seeds have turned and everything else that you like to see for the grapes, then don't wait, get it in, you know. And so that's working the problem, working the issues, working the land, and working the climate and everything else. There are other times when, you know, the breaks come out in the middle of October, and you know, we get a frost, or it gets below 32, or it rains or something like that. And so people ask me, you know, what did you do? And I said, I'm all in, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm already there. So
those decisions have been made, and where to go.
So, you know, it's just working it and building something. That's what, you know, that's what we're doing. We're just working the vineyards, working the climate, and then once we get it into our cellars, we're building something with our palates and with, you know, our blending trials. Yeah. And anything else, it's up to them. You know, these kids are really bright, man. They're doing a great job, both here in Washington State and everywhere else. You know, it's tough to keep up with them sometimes, but I try.
Awesome. So let's shift gears for a second. You have 12 days of giving. Let's talk about that for a second. What was the impetus behind it, and what do you hope to succeed with your 12 days of giving?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, I should start out by saying that for 25 years now, I've given my wife a present 12 days before Christmas. I give her one present every 12 days before. So it's kind of the romance in me that, you know, I like to spoil her a little bit. She's known as the pretty Dutch girl around the winery, and I just have always wanted to treat her especially as she treats me. So the 12 days of Christmas, 12 presents before Christmas, always was pretty natural for me. From there, in 2020, when we relied so much on DTC because the restaurants across the country are closed, a lot of the boutique shops are struggling, you know, and so you really have to rely on your own DTC, where the girls are really coming up with all sorts of ideas about, well, what do we do? How do we get more people involved with the winery buying directly from us? And this was one of the many ideas that the girls came up with, as doing gifts 12 days of Christmas and doing a different gift. Also, it gave a chance for us to give some of our members a chance to get at some library wines, or to get at some magnums or things like that we don't have for sale all the time. But since they've been so very, very good to us during this COVID situation, and have just teamed up and really done to the point where our own DTC is up actually 25% from last year.
That's great.
Which helps us, you know, with, you know, FOB being down so much that
sure.
we, you know, we want to reward them too. So now we're putting up some library wines, and we're putting up some magnums. We've got a tasting with Tay and I that we're putting up on one day. We're doing some culinary things too, which, you know, I'm a big part of. So we've got recipes online that we're trying to do. You know, just trying to really do stuff on our website and on all the different social medias. And the 12 days is just one of those.
It's awesome.
See anything you like?
You know, I was on there the other day, and I was like, oh, wow, there's a few things. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to hold you to it. Maybe I'll give you an industry discount. How's that?
Sounds good. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So looking at the decades that you've experienced working with Red Mountain fruit and being on Red Mountain, are there any other varietals that you'd like to work with your
Well, I've worked on all of them, and when I say Red Mountain for Cabernet, and sometimes I talk about Walla Walla, just really kind of focusing on Syrah, and the rocks and everything is just we're more and more as it's natural for any wine region to go from big areas to small areas, big appellations to small to single vineyards and so forth. And that's what I've just during my career have really seen Washington State do. For example, Red Mountain, we've gone from Columbia Valley, which is the big, Eastern Washington
kind of
thing, to Yakima Valley, which is smaller. It's still 60 miles long, but we've noticed that the apples grow great there and everything, so that all works. Then we get from there to smaller appellations like Red Mountain, where we noticed that Cabernet is a star there. And Walla Walla is a pretty big area, actually, and sooner or later it's probably going to be 4 or 5 different appellations. We've already seen rocks separate itself. That's actually in Milton Freewater, which is Oregon, across the border. If you go on Mill Creek, that's a different area where Leonetti and Abeja and so forth are. And then you go from there to Loudon, where Rick is, and you go to Pepper Bridge and places like that. They're all special in their own right, and but they're separate. They're they could be 20 miles apart or more. So they're they will be one day their own AVA, and that's starting to happen. And so we look at those, we say, well, the Syrah and the rocks is really great. I mean, they're just rocking it there.
Yeah.
So, and then we say the Cabernet is the big, powerful stuff is in Red Mountain. Does that mean that you can't grow Cabernet in Walla Walla? Of course not. There's some great Cabernet.
Leonetti might take.
Does that mean that you can't grow Syrah in Red Mountain? As you know, DeLille and other people have made great Syrahs in Red Mountain. It just means that as we're tweaking it more and more and more, we just, God, I love the Cabernet in Red Mountain. Maybe I like the Syrah. It's just like Bordeaux, for example. Can you grow Syrah in Bordeaux? Of course you could. Yeah. If you give it a lot of attention, you could probably make really damn good Syrah. But they've really established over the years that they want to do Bordeaux varietals there. I think that's what we're seeing here in Washington State is more and more focus and attention to detail on all these things. And for me, that means Bordeaux varieties in Red Mountain. I've tried everything, and we've gotten a lot of Semillon and Sauvignon from there. Of course, at DeLille, the Roussanne is a single vineyard Roussanne from Ciel de Cheval. We've had a lot of fun with that. We've made other wines. As far as other wines are concerned from Red Mountain, I don't know. But one thing we are talking about is a Pétillant. I'm really interested in maybe making a Pétillant. I've made champagne before and have a lot of fun with it. The older I get, the more champagne I'm drinking.
Awesome.
And
that's what life's all about, right?
On top of it, I'm a big fan of the Huet Pétillant, which of course is Chenin Blanc.
Yeah.
I think we could do something like that here. Again, that goes to your travels. What are people doing? That's pretty cool, right? And then at the end, can we do it here? And will it be really cool here? I think it'll be a little bit riper than the Loire Valley, but still I think it'll be delicious and really cool. So we've been talking a lot about doing that here at Upchurch Vineyard, and that'll give us a different wine, a sparkler that we can play around with and give Hannah and the girls something to really have some fun with. That means a road trip for me to Loire Valley.
Yeah.
When they'll let me in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, travel this year has been, non-existent really. Yeah. So
that's about it. Everything else I've really made a lot of already. Really focused on. There's some things that obviously I'm not a huge Washington State Chardonnay. That doesn't mean that other people aren't doing great wines, but I just feel like for what I think a great wine is, it'd be tough for me to make that, especially in Red Mountain. And then Other wines, it's kind of the same thing. I like the Malbec in Red Mountain. We played with that at DeLille.
Yeah.
But other varietals, I don't know. I just, like I said, maybe Chenin Blanc. Maybe that would be really
Cool. Yeah, I think as the world of wine continues to progress and evolve and find new places with new varietals and experiment with grapes in different types of terroir, I think the world is really still wide open to a lot of things, especially for the new world, because we can do a lot of different things. Certainly not for the old world where they are limited on what they can plant in which regions. But yeah, it's always fascinating to learn what's new and what's happening. What's next for you? What is there still anything that you wanted to have done but still haven't done yet in your career?
Well, I'm not done with what I'm doing. I think that basically.
Chris, it looks like you flipped around the camera there.
This one.
There we go.
Sorry. At any rate, I would say that I'm still on the path of Red Mountain. One of the things that I should mention is how I love Red Mountain and how I love the Cabernet there. And the great thing about Red Mountain that is almost a tell when you taste it is that we talk all the time about New World and Old World wines. All of our tastings, that's the first thing we deal with, New World, Old World, and so forth. And we look at the Old World as having maybe a little more acidity, more structure, more complexity. And we look at the New World, whether it's America or South America or Australia or wherever, we look at that as ripeness and power ripeness and so forth. And I really believe that as a AVA, Red Mountain is one of those places that has both, that really achieves both, and you can feel it and taste it when you try the wines. Like this year in 2000, I finally, my last Cabernet came in, last block, and it was 24.5, had a 6 TA, and was just beautiful, concentrated, fantastic. It had a great acidity to it, beautiful structure. Sometimes we have to deal with tannins, but tannin management's my middle name. We do delistage and press lightly and do a lot of other things to keep the tannins to where they want to, and we also pick when the tannins are riper as well. So really we can come out in Red Mountain and make a wine that has incredible structure, but of course every year is pretty ripe as well. We saw that in both 17 and 18, and we still have the Indian Falls that is famous in Washington State. It's almost incredible. Labor Day comes out and you get your coat out.
Yeah.
It's like that every year. We saw that in both 17 and 18, not so much in 15, but 17 and 18, the cool weather came out, and then you get this long hang time into October. It's really incredible place. I think that winemakers from around the world, if they were sitting in Red Mountain on October 15th, they'd be, wow, this is pretty good,
For sure.
And so that's why it's so exciting to do that. We still got a ways to go because we're still developing clones. We're still developing different trellis systems. As you know, we're using guillots and a little higher density at Upchurch Vineyard. We're playing around with those things. A clonal selection. I've found out that both Clone 2, which is kind of an oak clone, it's really a unique clone, is doing well in Red Mountain. Also for Syrah, 383 seems to be the special Syrah in Red Mountain. And those are kind of discoveries that take time. Sure. You don't plant a vineyard every day, so you can't, and it takes 3 years after that and 2 years after that to make the wine. So it takes time
to
develop that, and I'm still in that mode, so I'm going to continue to do that. And maybe one of my real goals is to get better at this technology stuff.
It's all good.
So you don't have to sit there and look at my eyebrows all the time.
Right. It's all good. One of the funny things about technology is it always continually like doubles itself every, was it 2 years or so? So by the time you've learned the current technology, there's something new you have to learn as well. It's just, it's crazy. Yeah. The future is a very, very strange place, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is. Well, I also want to mention these wines. I got to give a little bit of a plug, or the girls around here will kill me. They're all available on upchurchvineyard.com. It's pretty simple, or the website, which is upchurchvineyard.com. Right now, they're all available. We're not sold out of anything, although a couple are close. But we just released the 18s, so we still have some of those. And since we're not sending it around the country, we still have a little bit of them. So get online and join the club and enjoy some of these really cool wines.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's funny. Like as we're talking, I just got a news announcement saying that Napa County just recorded the second largest record in a row of COVID. So I foresee another serious shutdown happening here soon. So don't be like South Africa. Don't be in your house and all of a sudden you don't have anything in your cellar. Stock up, enjoy, because when hard times happen, it's good to have good wine and good conversation. So
that's right. And it's just one of the thing about being at home is you can spend a little bit more than you would because restaurants are bigger margin.
Sure.
So just consider the prices of you would spend in a restaurant for a bottle of wine, and then you can come back and sitting at home drinking those wines for a lot less, or drinking really good wines for a lot less is really a pleasure. That's what we're doing here. We're getting in. Taya just drinks the southwest facing Sauvignon Blanc. She, when we run out, she goes to the tanks and starts toking off those tanks.
Right. Awesome.
Because she just loves it so much. But we do bring in other wines and enjoy them with different foods and keep that kind of palate in shape and try to look at it and get some inspiration from them but I think that people can do the same by getting in on some of these wines and seeing what we're trying to do up here in Washington State. It's really cool. I mean, I have to say that being for 29 years, being involved with the discovery and the improvement of Washington State towards we can really take our place among the fine wines of the world has just been such a pleasure for me, and it's humbling. It's a community of people that are doing incredible jobs, and at the end it's really cool. I just it's been a privilege for me to do that, and I'm going to keep doing it until one of these days they're going to find me collapsed behind a couple of barrels and there's that old winemaker back there. I think he's gone, and I'll be happy with that, because until then I'm going to keep making wine.
Yeah, I know you well enough to know that that's probably true, because your passion for wine supersedes most things in life. Wise words, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. And you're such a wealth of knowledge and so easy to talk to. And I know that Instagram tends to kick us off about an hour into it. So before we go for today, do you have any last parting words of wisdom or thoughts for us?
Well, just stay safe, drink wine, stay safe. I think a lot of us are drinking more wine these days, and certainly we are. But, if you've got to, for me, the first 4 months, we isolated ourselves in the vineyard. Where's a better place to isolate yourself than 20 acres of vines? And, keep up the spirit, and if wine can be the glue that keeps us safe, then more power to it. I hope that we can really exceed your expectations and just really help out in this time where God knows what's happening, but We know that wine is something that brings a good part of life, no matter where you are. You could be sitting in your, in your kitchen, and it could still just bring a great part of life to you. So keep doing that, and I'll keep doing it, and I'll keep making. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Remember that the doctor recommends liquids.
Absolutely. Lots of liquids.
Lots of liquids. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, keep it locked here. Wednesday, 1 p.m., I connect with some South African producers. We'll have a fun chat there. Till then, stay safe, drink well, and be kind to others. Cheers.
Thank you, boss. Thank you, everybody.
Good to see you. Cheers.